Now that the HILUX is running again, well, I guess I better give it some love. I'm going to do a couple of very small things since I've got a couple of events coming up this weekend. Since I have a couple of events coming up this weekend, I gotta get a few simple things. I gotta get a few things done. First up, I've got a 4x4 trip planned for Saturday, so I gotta install something that I should have installed before I went to the vault, which is, you can't see it from here, but this is a diff breather, one of them. Now, some of you might be wondering what the hell a breather is, and in layman's terms, it is a hole inside a thing for gas to escape. And you will find them on most mechanical components you will find on a vehicle, your differentials, your engine, and sometimes your transmission. Yes, and obviously with it being a hole, it's somewhere that stuff can also get in, and particularly on your differentials when you're driving through water or let's say a mud pit. Whatever is inside that water or mud pit will then try to get inside your differentials and turn your differential fluid into milkshake, which obviously is less than ideal. And yes, most of the times the breathers themselves have little one-way valves on them. In the case of the differential on the HILUX, it's this little spring-loaded cap. But they are not 100% foolproof. You will get seepage into the diff, which will in turn ruin it if not caught early enough. So obviously the first step in installing your breather on the differentials on these is to locate these little caps and to remove them, and basically you turn them counterclockwise a little bit until they're nice and free, and then you force them off. Nothing to it really. Your front differential breather is located right there, and on your South African Gearmax differentials, let me get under here, your differential breather is located right there. Now, for my international viewers who might not know, due to South Africa only getting the YN60 HILUXs after the entire world stopped producing them, lots of the parts for the later model YN60 HILUXs in South Africa were manufactured in the country, like the load pins and, well, the rear differentials. But not to worry, we have this one here which still has the original Toyota differential underneath it, so I will be able to show you guys where that breather sits. And well, it's right there. Hello. Now let's move on to what you will actually need to assemble your diff breather extension kit. You will need 4 hose clamps, some rubber hose with a 10mm in diameter. Make sure you have enough, so buy around 4 to 5 meters of it. Now, since the main purpose of these breathers are to prevent crud from getting into your differentials, you're going to also want to get 2 little one-way valves. Now, some guys also like to put little air filters on the top of these. I was too lazy to go buy some, so yeah. I've already taken the liberty of assembling my breather hoses, so now I just need to install them. Now, when installing these little breather extender hoses, you need to make sure that you keep in mind that your differentials are going to move up and down, so you need to leave enough slack for your diff to bottom out without ripping your breather off. That might cause a problem. And you also need to be mindful of any mechanical components in and around the area of where you're going to run your little hose, because obviously you do not want anything pinching, cutting, or ripping them off. Then you would have just wasted your time. With that being said, here is my front breather setup. Goes out of the diff, over the steering arm, over the leaf spring, out of the way of everything, goes up and around here. You can see all the slack I have, and then it goes into the fender liner where it will be out of harm's way. And in the rear you can see it goes out of the diff, up and around, all of that slack, over the chassis rail. It's strapped to the chassis rail, goes up and around there, nice and out of the way of the wheel, over the fuel filler neck, and it's pointing downwards to make sure it doesn't clog up with anything falling inside of it. So there's that done, quick and easy, nice and simple. On to the next, which is this little cup holder that I stole out of the Opel, which I figured I'd be able to put to better use inside of the HILUX. As you can see, that was an incredibly complicated install, but now I've actually got an actual problem to address. And that issue is my oil pressure gauge. Obviously it won't do it for the camera, but what it's been doing is it would go max, 0, max, 0, max, 0, and everything in between, and once it hits max or it hits 0, it would light up in this very dramatic red light and beep, 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 go mad, because it has a cool little alarm that tells you when you're maxing out your oil pressure or you lose oil pressure, which is quite cool, but quite annoying when it doesn't work correctly. And I've managed to isolate the problem down to this. Now, the oil pressure sender that I'm using uses two M4 bolt-on contacts to bolt some eyelets on to get the thing to work. And it came with these little fasteners to keep everything tight. And obviously, there's no way you're getting this tight enough, and it just won't stay put, so it would get loose and obviously screw around with the signal from the sender. So, what I'll be doing is what I should have done when I installed the gauge the first time around, and that would be replacing those little thingamabobbins with some actual hardware. Meaning I've got some washers, some M4 bolts, as well as M4 bolt, M4 nuts, and M4 nylock nuts. So I'll be very sure that they won't get. Here you can actually see what I was blabbering on about. I've already gone and removed the other fastener, but I didn't even go and loosen this beforehand. It was just, there it goes. It was just that loose. It's impossible to tighten them. So yeah, let's get that sorted so that I actually have a reliable oil pressure gauge. Because let's face it, no matter how pretty that Diffie gauge looks, if I can't trust it, it's of no use to me. Now, I'm not going to pretend and say it's not never fun to crawl up underneath the vehicle to work on it and to lay on the ground, because it is never fun. But me being used to the little Opel Kadett, just being able to crawl underneath the vehicle and not having to jack it up to do absolutely anything is quite nice, I won't lie. But yeah, washer, get that on, other washer, shit, other washer, boop, lock nut. Oh, how am I going to do this now? My fingers are a bit too fat for... Ah, there it goes, never mind. Cool. Other lock nut. Okay, this one's going to be a bit more... No, there goes the washer. No. Okay, I've got it back on. Cool. Ah. There you can see my fingers. Nice and simple. Now I just got to wrench them tight, and I'll be good to go. Ah, you know what? A ratchet's not gonna fit there. I'm gonna have to use a wrench. That's gonna be finicky. Yeah. Oh. I broke one of the contacts on the oil pressure sender. Okay, update. Since I've got stuff to do with the Hilux this weekend, I made a farmer's plan with my oil pressure sender, and in making that plan, I've discovered that my thermal switch for my fan had packed up, so I'm currently on my way to my nearest Midas to get a new one. This will be my third thermo switch on this vehicle. I do not know why. Okay, so the new thermo switch is in. Let's see. Well, first let's start it so we can see if the new thermo switch did indeed resolve my issue of the fan not turning off, and if my farmer's plan with the oil pressure sender has worked. So far so good. Fan's not on. Seems that things are sorted. Good. Never mind, the sensor does not work. That means I gotta contact the people where I bought the gauge from here if they might be able to sell me a sender separately, or I will have to buy an entirely new gauge.